first, I want to talk about President Trump's historic and incredible speech, and Americans loved what they heard. According to brand new polling from the Daily Mail, President Trump has never been more popular as his approval ratings are reaching historic highs. He just passed me a note while I'm standing here. He wanted me to hold this up. This is the poll that I cited, the CBS YouGov poll that shows that 76% of those who watched the president's speech last night approved of his speech. CNN's first chyron out of the speech called it divisive. President Trump wasn't divisive. The Democrats were. And CNN was proven wrong by their own viewers, 69% of whom, in a post-speech poll, said they had a positive reaction to the president's speech.
Finding that members continue to engage in willful and willful and continuing breach of decorum and
These people sitting right here will not clap, will not stand, and certainly will not cheer for these astronomical achievements. They won't do it, no matter what. Our justice system has been turned upside down by radical left lunatics.
The president and everyone, frankly, was surprised by the Democrats refusing to stand for not the president's policies, because frankly we expected that, but for the everyday Americans who President Trump was shining a light on their stories. Mark Fogel, for instance, an American school teacher who was detained by the Russians. President Trump freed him. If Joe Biden had done that, they all would have been on their feet. It was the most shameful moment in the history of presidential addresses in that beautiful chamber. In what was supposed to be a unifying moment for our country, Democrat members of Congress instead screamed at the President of the United States, who was just overwhelmingly reelected by their constituents, walked out of the chamber, and worst of all, they disrespected the American people.
Not one Democrat senator voted to protect women's sports from males. Not one Democrat congressman or congresswoman stood to applaud or support protecting women's spaces and sports at the president's joint session to Congress last night, as you articulately mentioned at the beginning.
They have a president in the Oval Office who is committed to doing what's right for them, especially women and girls across the country. And I think it's very ironic that Democrat women were wearing pink to support our fellow females, yet they couldn't stand again for a young woman who was almost killed and severely injured by a man on the volleyball court. They couldn't stand for the mothers of two beautiful young women whose lives were taken tragically at the hands of illegal people. So you can't say you're the party of women and then support men and women's sports and not stand up for basic law and order and immigration reform that will protect women in this country. That's what President Trump is doing. He's the president for women.
So what does it say that the Democrats, while they couldn't stand for Americans or stand for victims, they stood for war and clapped for war and clapped for 5 more years of war?
Yeah, you know, the president addressed that last night. The Democrats refused to clap for American people and American interests and American priorities, but they did clap for the country of Ukraine. President Biden also got increasingly frustrated with President Zelensky when he was handing out blank checks, and President Zelensky kept asking for more. However, President Zelensky did put out a statement yesterday, which we believe is a positive step forward.
Your country's in big trouble.
Wait a minute. No. Do you think that it's respectful to come to the Oval Office and dress code?
It looked.
Do you ever? Why don't you wear a suit? Why don't you wear a suit? You're at the highest level in this country's office, and you refuse to wear a suit. Just want to see if you do you own a suit?
We know that some officials here were miffed that Zelensky showed up last week without a suit for his meeting in the Oval Office. But Elon Musk never wears a suit.
He did last night.
So what is the dress code?
Well, Elon Musk wore a suit last night. I'm sure you saw it.
Was he spooked by the Zelensky?
It looked.
Zelensky getting kicked out?
No, I don't think so. I'm just pointing out that he did wear a suit last night, and I think the president liked that very much, and he looked great.
Your predecessor, Karine Jean-Pierre, criticized the recent changes to the press pool made by your office. She said in an interview, quote, what we're looking at is what North Korea is doing.
I think that's the same individual who said from this podium numerous times that the commander-in-chief was mentally and physically up for the job, which we knew was a lie. And so when it comes to truth and transparency, this administration, this White House is setting the example. This president is taking far more questions than his predecessor, Joe Biden, did on a daily basis, and that will continue.
The American dream is unstoppable in our country. South Korea's average tariff is 4 times higher. Think of that, 4 times higher.
Back on tariffs, last night President Trump said there will be a little disturbance, but we're okay with that. Why should Americans be okay with that when so many are already struggling to pay the bills?
Well, first of all, last night, the president told the truth. Unlike the previous president who lied to everybody's faces, saying inflation was transitory, saying it was under control, saying that the border was secure, when none of that was true. So the president is being frank and honest.
The president also said that the United States was reclaiming the Panama Canal. The president of Panama this morning, or at some point today, said that President Trump was lying.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Panama has seen what's going on with their own canal, but as you just mentioned, the president was very vocal several weeks ago about the need to ensure that China is not controlling the Panama Canal.